So Bob Iger, the president of Disney, said that he was going to shift all of his attention to Marvel Studios, shift his attention, focus his energy, his time on making Marvel better. He said that his #1 priority right now is to help the studio turn around creatively. And it looks like that is exactly what he is trying to do. Unfortunately, but also fortunately, depending on how you look at this means delays. Delays to Phase 6, but unfortunately delays to Phase 5 as well. And we've already had some decent delays, with Deadpool 3 being the only Marvel movie that is coming out this year in 2024. And according to some people over at Marvel, they are switching things around again, production and schedule-wise. Like I mentioned, this comes directly from people over at Marvel in an interview with comicbook.com's Phase 0 podcast. When talking about What If Season 2, the podcast had on executive producer AC Bradley, writer and executive producer Matthew Chauncey, and director and executive producer Brian Andrews. And during the podcast, they were asked when What If Season 3 is going to be coming out. We've already got a little teaser for it with the Winter Soldier and Red Guardian, but no release date, as well as no release date for X-Men 97, but more on that in a bit. So when asked about the release date, director Brian Andrews stated this: "I thought it could come out at the end of 2024, but there's some other group of people that are masterminding when things release, and they're moving things around, and I don't know where we exist on that at this moment." Now, I've seen some slight confusion over this statement today, so let me explain what it means. The other group of people that Brian Andrews is referring to when he says there's some other group of people that are masterminding when things release, he is specifically talking about the people at Marvel Studios, the people who are in charge of when everything gets released. And of course, those are the executives and the higher ups at Marvel Studios, combined with Bob Iger himself. So it's the Marvel executives that he is referring to when he states there is some other group of people that are masterminding when things release, and they're moving things around, which is a confirmation that Marvel Studios is kind of switching up their current release plans. Now, this comes as little to no surprise. There's been a lot of delays recently, and a lot has happened with Marvel Studios and Disney. They lost Jonathan Majors as Kang when he was found guilty. They let him go. Plus, not to mention the writer and actor strikes definitely put them back. And on top of that, as I mentioned, Bob Iger is specifically working very closely and intently with Marvel Studios and helping the studio, as he says, turn around. So a lot of you may have been wondering why exactly Marvel Studios has delayed so many different projects, pushed them back to 2025, delaying the entire slate for Marvel Studios, both Phase 5 and Phase 6. And yes, it can be attributed to the strikes a little bit, but what is really happening is actually some pretty good news, and that is Marvel Studios is essentially doing some quality control. Most of you probably have heard Bob Iger and Kevin Feige, the president of Marvel Studios, speak up about the quality and the quantity of Marvel Studios projects, stating that they are going to start making less quantity and focus more on making better quality projects. But also with this is going to come some cancellations of some shows, and maybe movies as well. Phase 6 has not yet been released in its entirety. In fact, we only really know 3 projects for Phase 6. Avengers 5, which right now is kind of being rewritten at the moment. At least Marvel Studios is going through all of their options with the direction they want to take Avengers 5. And then of course we have the Fantastic Four and then Avengers Secret Wars. These are the only official announcements that Marvel Studios has made yet. However, over time we have heard through multiple outlets, trade companies, and insiders, all within the industry, telling us about some projects that Marvel Studios had planned that hadn't been officially announced yet. But it seems like some of those plans might have changed, or at least have been put on hold for a little bit or for a lot of bit. For example, some of these projects are the Young Avengers, Thor 5, Doctor Strange 3, a Scarlet Witch solo movie, a Nova project, a Silver Surfer project, a Ghost Rider project, Midnight Suns. Some of these we know are still going to be coming, but unfortunately some of these are going to be delayed or canceled in their entirety. And Bob Iger has a very specific goal when it comes to releasing Marvel content. We'll talk about that in just a bit. But first, big thank you to Avatar Braving the Elements for sponsoring this video. I know many of you love the breakdowns that we do, Easter egg videos, reactions, and reviews on this channel, which is why I think you will love Avatar Braving the Elements, the official companion podcast for Avatar: The Last Airbender. Now, I personally love companion podcasts that go with whatever I'm watching at the time, because I feel like you just get so much more information that you wouldn't get from anywhere else, which is why I am so excited for Avatar Braving the Elements. Each week, hosts Janet Varney, the voice of Korra, and and Dante Bosco, the voice of Zuko, rewatch every episode of The Last Airbender. They're joined by special guests like the cast, super fans, and even the creators of the show, Michael DiMartino and Brian Konietzko, for a deep dive and a behind-the-scenes look into the Avatar-verse that you can't get anywhere else. So listen to Avatar: Braving the Elements wherever you get your podcasts. So a while ago, it was announced by some insiders that a Silver Surfer project was coming, Ghost Rider, Nova, etc. However, we haven't really heard anything about these projects recently, and according to some of these insiders, Marvel Studios might be putting these on hold for a bit, and it seems like they might actually be holding off on special presentations altogether, at least for the time being. Why? Because Bob Iger and Kevin Feige want Marvel to scale back. This is what Bob Iger said during the New York Times Summit. Quality needs attention to deliver quality. It doesn't happen by accident. And quantity, in our case, diluted quality, and Marvel has suffered greatly from that. I would say right now, my #1 priority is to help the studio turn around creatively. He then went on to address the elephant in the room, and he said that they made too many film sequels that had not been well received by the audiences or critics. And then he said there has to be a good reason to make them. Often, the story is not as strong as the original story. That can be a problem, but it just has to have a reason. You have to have a reason to make it beyond commerce. There has to be an artistic reason to make it, and we've made too many. Now, it's only been a couple of months since he said this, but it looks like change has already happened at Marvel Studios. And the news that we heard today from Brian Andrews about Marvel moving things around confirms this. Now, like I mentioned, this could be viewed as bad, but also as good. Bad if you want a ton of Marvel content all the time. Good if you want better quality content delivered less frequently. Kevin Feige and Bob Iger have explained that they stretched themselves too thin. Bob Iger even said that the reason the Marvels wasn't that successful is because there was lack of supervision on the set of the Marvels from any executives, because they were just doing so much at once, doing so many different movies and so many different projects at the same time. Of course, the quality would lack, but now Marvel is changing that. That's why everything was delayed, not really because of the strikes. That was kind of just an opportunity to say that they needed to delay everything, but really what is happening is they want to make everything better. That's why everything that has been delayed is either going through reshoots or rewrites. What Marvel Studios has basically done is sat down and evaluated everything that they have coming out. The things that they don't want to put out because they don't believe are going to be good, they're not going to, which means they're either going to push them back or perhaps could even cancel them altogether. Deadpool is a great example of something that was examined and realized to be great, which is why they didn't delay that movie. Well, they didn't delay it any further than it's already been. That movie is still coming out in 2024. Why? Because they believe that it's a great movie, and obviously Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman, and Sean Levy have faith in it as well. Otherwise, that movie would have been pushed back to be given more time. They could have went a whole year without having a Marvel movie. They have plenty of Disney Plus projects that they could put out there in the meantime. Agatha Coven of Chaos is still coming in 2024, and Catherine Hahn just recently said that they only have a few shots left in the reshoots. So again, they reevaluated the show and decided that they only wanted to do a few reshoots rather than push the whole thing back or cancel it altogether. So they've essentially done this with all of Phase 5 and Phase 6. Every project that they have scheduled to come out, they've either decided to keep it and rewrite it a little, or scrap it altogether. So whatever we think we know about Phase 6 might not actually be the case if Marvel Studios decides to do a major change-up, which they already have. That was confirmed today. The release schedule is going to be changed. They thought What If was going to come out this year, but clearly that doesn't seem like it could be the case anymore. So with the confirmation that Marvel Studios is moving around their release schedule from somebody at Marvel, that means that we could be in for a real shakeup pretty soon. But let me know your thoughts about this in the comments down below. Do you think this is good, or would you rather just have them produce a bunch of content so you always have something from Marvel to watch? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on the latest MCU news. Also, if you subscribe and leave a comment, you are automatically entered in our giveaway for a chance to win an Xbox Series X, a PS5, some Marvel Legends items, or some DC items. The winner picks one item, and we pick one winner at the end of each month. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter, and as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.